Marcus Webb had been mopping floors at Sunrise Rehabilitation Center for 11 years. Every morning, he arrived before the sun touched the parking lot, his cart squeaking down the long hallways while patients still slept behind closed doors. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from. He was quiet, reliable, and largely invisible, the way janitors often are in busy medical places. But Marcus carried something no paycheck could measure. A 7-year-old daughter named Lily, who saw the world not as it was, but as it could be. Lily had her mother's eyes and her father's stubborn heart, and ever since her mother passed 2 years ago, she had become Marcus's reason for every early alarm clock, every overtime shift, every sacrifice made without complaint. On school holidays, when no babysitter was available, Marcus brought Lily to work. The staff adored her. She would fold napkins in the break room, draw pictures for the nurses, and wander beside her father with wide, curious eyes that noticed everything. It was on one such Tuesday morning in October that everything changed. Not just for Marcus, but for a woman named Diane Carroll, who had stopped believing that anything ever could. Diane had been a marathon runner. 3 years before that Tuesday, she had been training for her 4th race when a distracted driver ran a red light and took everything from her in a single terrible second. The accident left her paralyzed from the waist down. She spent months in hospitals, then moved to Sunrise for intensive rehabilitation. The physical therapists worked hard. The doctors were kind. But somewhere inside Diane, a door had closed. She stopped asking about progress. She stopped looking out the window. She answered questions politely, but spoke to no one first. The staff called it grief, because that is exactly what it was. Grief for a life she had lost. Grief for legs that no longer listened. Grief for a version of herself she feared was gone forever. That Tuesday, Marcus was cleaning the corridor outside Diane's room when Lily slipped away from him. As children do, drawn by curiosity toward an open door, Marcus turned just in time to see his daughter walk right into Diane's room, completely unaware that she was intruding, completely unafraid. Diane looked up from her untouched breakfast tray. She expected the child to retreat, embarrassed, the way adults always did when they accidentally wandered too close to her sadness. Instead, Lily walked closer, tilted her head, studied Diane's wheelchair with the focused seriousness only a 7-year-old can. Manage and ask the question, the simple, innocent, world-changing question. "What's your superpower?" Diane blinked. Of all the things anyone had ever said to her. In 3 years of hospitals and rehabilitation centers and careful, walking on eggshells conversations, no one had ever said that. "My what?" she asked, certain she had misheard. "My daddy says everyone has a superpower," Lily explained, climbing onto the visitor's chair without asking. "Because children do not ask permission to be kind. He says you just have to find it." "So what's yours?" Marcus appeared in the doorway, mortified, already forming an apology. But Diane raised one hand slightly, and the apology died before it was spoken. She looked at Lily for a long moment. Then, for the first time in months, something cracked open in her face. Not sadness, but something fighting its way through sadness. "I don't know," Diane said honestly. "I used to think it was running." "Maybe it's still running," Lily said with complete confidence, just a different kind. Marcus stood frozen. His daughter, who still believed in superheroes and magic, and the fundamental goodness of everything, had just said the thing that no doctor, no therapist, no well-meaning friend had managed to say in 3 years. Diane laughed, a short, surprised, real laugh that startled even herself. It felt strange in her throat, like a word in a language she had forgotten she once spoke. She asked Lily her name. Lily told her, then asked Diane to draw a picture with her. And Diane, without quite knowing why, said yes. Marcus cleaned the hallway twice that day, slower than usual, glancing through the doorway at his daughter and the woman who was laughing again. Actually laughing, their heads bent together over a sheet of paper. The head therapist noticed something different in Diane's session that afternoon, an engagement, a willingness, a spark that had not been there before. Within 3 months, Diane Carroll began writing a blog about life after paralysis. Within a year, she was speaking at hospitals across the country, telling newly injured patients that their superpowers were not gone, only transformed. She always began her talks the same way, with a story about a janitor's daughter and one small, perfect question. Marcus still mops the floors at sunrise. He still arrives before the sun. But now, every morning, Diane leaves him a coffee at the nurse's station, no note required, because some thank yous live beyond words. And Lily, now 8, still visits on school holidays, still wanders the halls with wide eyes, still talks to everyone she meets, still asking the questions the rest of us forgot we were allowed to ask. If this story touched your heart, please show your love and support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel, Kindness True Stories, where every story reminds you that ordinary people do extraordinary things every single day. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts around the world. Thank you for being part of this community of kindness.